We are continuing with the learning sessions. We would like to ask you all to come a little closer to us. You can find the front seats. You can come to table 1, 2, 3. Something that you couldn't do during the breakfast, you can do now. So Michael, you come closer. Everybody else come closer. And we want to welcome all our friends that are watching us online. And we are starting right now with the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast learning sessions. And our first learning session is about Global Aliyah. We're talking about an organization called Global Aliyah, but we also talk about Aliyah as a global issue. And with me is a very good friend, and I really want to thank you for years of trust and partnership, I would even call it, for helping many Jewish people and their descendants to make Aliyah. My good friend lawyer Yadin Elam. Thank you, Yadin. So when we talk about Aliyah, people usually think, well, it also only takes a ticket to Israel, right? You buy a ticket for a Jewish person or a family, and then they come to Israel, and then it's the life in roses, you know, everything is beautiful, chaim dvash, as we say in Hebrew. But is it really?
Well, theoretically, this should have been the case, but it's not. And it is not because of several reasons. One of them is that in order to get the flight ticket, you need first to prove your eligibility to make Aliyah. Now, this sounds like something very simple, but it's not for many reasons. First, sometimes there is a lack of documents. We see it in the former Soviet Union. We see it many times, by the way, with American citizens who don't have any documents that say you are Jewish. So first you need to gather all the documents. And the second problem that we encounter a lot in Global Aliyah, that's their main issue of helping those people, are people who need to prove the family relations. And what do I mean? Let's say that your father is a Jew and you are therefore eligible to make Aliyah, but your parents were not married to each other. Well, we know that a large percentage of parents in the Western world today are not married. It was a common phenomena in the Soviet Union that couples didn't get married. So if you present the documents to show that your father is Jewish, they will say to you, the people who are making the decision about Aliyah will tell you, yes, this person is indeed a Jew, but how do we know that he is your father? You need to prove that he is your father.
But isn't it a horribly painful thing? I mean, it's easy for us to talk about this, but you come to a person that has just experienced this kind of a rejection, and it can throw a person into a deepest depression, because suddenly they feel like, I'm not accepted.
Of course, and not only that people can get into depression, I described the simple case, not that simple, that, okay, there is a child and his father, the father is alive. Scientifically, it is easy to prove through DNA testing that, maybe we'll talk about it, can be done only in Israel and only under court order.
Now, here we need to understand, because most of our viewers would never understand this thing, because they say, okay, DNA test, you do an online registration, pay $100.
And
okay.
Not only that you get family relation, you get the whole history of your family.
People come to me and say, I am 37% Jewish, Ashkenazi. So, will they make Aliyah?
No. The Israeli law allows for DNA testing only through a court order, Israeli court order. Now, it makes sense that they will not accept the test that you described because there is no what they called in the US chain of custody. They don't know who sent the DNA. But even if you go to a lab, official lab in the US, it will not be accepted.
And so they cannot basically just figure it out on their own. I mean, I even don't know how you open a court case. You are a lawyer, so I need to talk to you first.
Of course. And you don't speak Hebrew because you are in Russia or in the Ukraine. You will have no idea, and that's why people are coming to Global Aliyah.
And moreover, you have a war taking place every day. And there are Russians and there are Ukrainians, Jews, who want to make Aliyah, and suddenly they are in a limbo. They need to prove that they have the right to do that.
Of course, and we need to understand that this process takes quite a long time, and it costs a lot of money. I mean, maybe it's not considered to be a lot of money by Western standards, but for a person who lives in the Ukraine under bombing or in Russia, it's impossible financially to file a court case in Israel, to pay for the DNA test. And by the way, DNA tests are done at the Israeli consulate. So what happens is we file the paternity suit, and we get a court order, then we have to pay for the test, and then these people are called to the Israeli consulate to take their DNA.
Well, as the war broke out in 2014, and now again in last February, we saw thousands of people just flee. There is a scripture in the Bible that speaks about the fishers bringing the Jewish people home, but then the hunters. And it seems like the hunters are pushing the Jewish people to the right decision to come to Israel. But when they come under the threat of hunters, usually they don't have money. They have made no homework in finding all the documents to prove the Jewishness. And they suddenly show up in Israel and they say, what now?
Albert, we're in a horrible situation because for years, people prayed for the gathering of the exiles and for the Jews to come back to the Holy Land. It is happening now, or should I say, it can happen now, but it doesn't because those people who want to make Aliyah are facing problems that they cannot solve.
Can you give me a personal story that has touched you mostly? I know there's hundreds, but maybe just a few that people would understand and would be able to put themselves in their shoes.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that DNA is both a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing because, as I said, if you want to prove that your father was a Jew and he is alive, then it is a costly operation, but it's possible. We have many cases where, for example, the father passed away. So right now, we have a case of a brother and a sister from the Ukraine who want to make Aliyah. Their parents passed away, and actually their mother was Jewish, but her parents were not married to each other. So we need to prove the relation to the grandfather, and we tested them. We tested one uncle, and we tested another aunt, and after all this, the DNA lab couldn't reach a conclusion because they said it's not that we proved that there is no relationship, but we just can't prove. People don't understand, for example, that if we want to prove that a brother and a sister had the same father, and brotherhood is a very close relationship, chances of us to be able to prove it are only 25% to begin with. So now we need to figure out what to do next. And when I said DNA is a curse, this is a good example, because if there was no DNA, Israel would have to allow people to prove the relationship through different ways of proving. Family pictures, affidavit, other documents, but since they learned about the DNA, they say, okay.
Well, let me just maybe give you a picture. Imagine a brother and a sister, both Jewish, during the Second World War. And let's say the sister, in order to survive, went to the police office or forged her documents. Instead of being Rachel Abramovich, she is now Masha Ivanova, for the sake of example. And let's say the brother keeps his Jewish identity and is living under the threat. Let's say they both survive, and now fast forward, their third generation want to come to live in Israel. And we have many young people that want to come to the different programs.
Masa,
Na'aleh, Taglit, and they need to prove their right to participate. And so the brothers' line, that they have all the documents to the third generation, the grandchild, can easily prove because he has his grandpa's birth certificate saying that he is Jewish. Sister, Maria Ivanova, a Russian. And now fast forward, her grandchild, maybe a daughter, would be halachically, according to the Jewish law, a Jewish person, having the full right to make Aliyah, and she cannot. So what would help?
Well, we had a case exactly like this, and the son of the woman you called Maria Ivanova got tested with the granddaughter of his aunt. We managed to prove the relationship, and unfortunately, before he got his Aliyah visa, he passed away in the Ukraine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we have also happy stories. I actually got a very exciting WhatsApp message from a girl that actually we helped to do the DNA test, and because of that she was able to make Aliyah. She actually described it this way, that when she came to the consul and was told that, who are you? It threw her, you know, like in a way that she couldn't even imagine. But today, after that we helped her and paid for the DNA test and paid for the legal fees, what we needed to pay, she just finished her army service. She was the helicopter mechanic. And you should have seen her with the full gear, smiling, a big smile. And she said, you know, thank you so much for helping me to make Aliyah. Because there are the regular cases making Aliyah, but then there are these special cases that they need the help. And it was very, I don't know the statistics, how many people actually need that kind of help, but I personally think that we talk about thousands of people.
Of course.
And especially as the time has gone by and people are not getting married and people are not registering their children if they are Israeli citizens in the embassies. Let's say there's coming a mass Aliyah from the United States of America. What would you say? What would happen? I think we will have hundreds, if not thousands of cases. You need to prove the relationship.
Of course, and I want to say that I'm angry. I mean, I think it's the fourth or fifth time that I speak at this lovely gathering, and the need to help, there are more people in need now than ever before. That's due to the war and due to the fact that people are getting older, and this is the last chance to examine, to test their elders. And we're helping fewer and fewer people because of financial problems. And even, you know, even the people who wanted or could have participated in part in the legal fees and the DNA testing now if they live in the Ukraine, they don't have money. And even if they do have some money, there is no way to wire money out of the Ukraine, Russia, Belarus. So we have people who we have court orders for, but we cannot pay for their DNA tests.
Well, I'm happy we have here Hinrich Kassmann in the public audience, and here leading the Ebenezer work from Germany. And I have had these moments of brokenness when I've just turned to Hinrich and said, Hinrich, I am totally broke. I'm paying from my own pocket to help these people to make Aliyah. Would you be able to send some resources? And Hinrich, you've done it several times, really plucking people out of a hole of despair. And what we need to do now is to raise the awareness. Now, we will hear from the Vice President of Jewish Agency today also. They are doing fantastic work in the regathering of the Jewish people from all over the world. But what we want to give people is the awareness that not every case is the same.
Of course.
And so we need to be able to raise the funds to help those who don't fit the criteria that is set. Actually, I have good news. I spoke with the Knesset member, Oded Forer, who is now the chairman of the Aliyah committee, and he promised me, you know, politicians make promises. And we have to, you know, really keep them aware of it, that we remember. And so he said that he will talk to the general director of the Ministry of Aliyah, so that they will have this additional sum allocated for those who have proven their right to make Aliyah. So at least the DNA test fees, they will get back. So if we are able to support them, maybe they will support us back.
Great. And listen, Albert, I want to say that Global Aliyah is a very thin NGO. I mean, I worked in NGOs, I worked for NGOs, and the amount of work that Global Aliyah is doing with very small organization and with very little resources is amazing. I mean, people should know that every dollar that they donate to Global Aliyah goes for the purpose, not for fancy offices that you don't have.
Well, I wish we had a fancy office, and I wish I had a secretary, and I wish we had people that would be doing their work on a constant, you know, basis, given that there's a budget to pay their salaries. But what we try to do is to help as many as possible. And at this stage, I must say, Global Aliyah is not just thin, it's not just starving, it's like these children on Warsaw ghettos picture. We are really in a bad shape, and we would need to get some funds to pay for those people that are waiting in the wait list. And the worst part of it is that if you look at the world news, these wars that we see raging are not going to end, and as a result, people are feeling insecure. They have no future in these countries that are at war. They have no perspective of having a better life there. So they come to their senses and realize Israel, actually, that I have been hearing about so many times, might be the address.
Yes, and I think, I mean, we don't have the resources to help those people who come to Global Aliyah in need of DNA test, but you said what you wish for. What I wish for is to have enough resources to do also principal legal work, for example, for people who we cannot prove their family relation through DNA, to go to court and ask the court to declare them Jews through other proofs that we have, to help people, for example, who were denied because of a very ancient criminal background. You know, the Israel law of return allows the Minister of the Interior to deny people who have criminal background and can endanger the welfare of the public in Israel. And I think it's right that we will have it. But unfortunately, it's not only, I mean, the famous case that we know in Israel is Meyer Lansky, who was one of the heads of the Italian mob in the US, and he was denied. But, you know, I had American people who want to make Aliyah, but they had traffic violations. I mean, not a parking ticket, but they had an accident. So their federal background check is not clean. It has a traffic violation. They will be rejected. We'll have to fight for each of them in court.
It's unbelievable. So what we need to, and I would ask you to do is go to our website, global, as you hear, Aliyah,
A-L-I-Y-A-H.
So do your homework. Say it one more time.
Global Aliyah. Aliyah is A-L-I-Y-A-H. Maybe we have a place on Facebook to put a link.
We'll have to put the link down there, and you can go to the website, you can learn, you can see the stories, and you can donate. I want to thank you, Yadin, for being so faithful to help these people. I mean, I know lawyers that have been charging people exorbitant amounts of money despite the fact that they see that they're in a very difficult situation. And we've been able to work out the best possible outcome. So very, very thankful to you for your help. And let's believe that Global Aliyah would have all the resources we need, that every person that comes to us and says, help us, we would be able to help. And you know, it's interesting also, the consuls, Israeli consuls, that basically make the decision, and they see that person across the table, and they know that they have trouble. They give them our email, globalaliyah@gmail.com. And so this is the way how they come us, and through the Facebook and all of these other social media resources. And I just want to thank you for your help and for coming today and for sharing these things. And if you have questions to him, we can then ask afterwards, because our next session is just